just our own life in many ways. His life was spectacular, but if we look back at our own lives, there's a lot of spectacularness in our own. So let's be here. Friend, beloved child, Jesus Christ. Babaji Krishna. Lahiri Mahasaya. Saints of all religions, we humbly bow at thy feet. Bless thy guide our lives. Awaken within our hearts the yearning, the self-offering, the intense devotion that gave you your freedom. Help us to receive your grace, the grace of God, to find the final freedom that you are offering us through your teachings, through your practices, through your example. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti.
Come
come out of my secret soul. Mother, come out of my secret soul. Come out of my cave of silence. Come out of my cave of silence. Come out of the silent sky. Come out of the mountain glen. Come out of the silent sky. Come out of the mountain glen. Come out of my secret soul. Mother, come out of my secret soul. Come out of my cave of silence. Come out of my cave of silence. Mother, I give you my soul, soul, soul. You can't remain hidden anymore. You can't remain hidden anymore. Give my mother a soul, soul, soul. She can't remain hidden anymore. She can't remain hidden anymore. Come out of the silent sky. Come out of the mountain glen. Come out of the silent sky. Come out of the mountain glen. Come out of my secret soul. Mother, come out of my secret soul. Come out of my cave of silence. Come out of my cave of silence. Come out of the silent sky. Come out of the mountain glen. Come out of the silent sky. Come out of the mountain glen. Come out of my secret soul. Mother, come out of my secret soul. Come out of my cave of great enemy, with his soldiers surrounding me, is giving me lots of trouble. Oh, my Lord, is giving me lots of trouble. Oh, my Lord, that enemy I will deceive, remaining in the castle of peace, night and day, night joy. Oh, my Lord, 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 what will be my fate? Oh, Lord, tell me. Pranayam be thy religion. Pranayam will give thee salvation. Pranayam is the wishing tree. 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 Pranayam is beloved God. Pranayam is Creator Lord. Pranayam is the cosmic world. 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 Control the little pranayam, become a pervading pranayam. You won't have to fear anything anymore. 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 Desire my great enemy, with his soldiers surrounding me, is giving me lots of trouble. Oh, my Lord, is giving me lots of trouble. Oh, my Lord, that enemy I will deceive, remaining in the castle of peace, night and day, night joy. Oh, my Lord, 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 what will be my fate? Oh, Lord, tell me. Pranayam be thy religion. Pranayam will give thee salvation. Pranayam is the wishing tree. 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 Pranayam is beloved God. Pranayam is Creator Lord. Pranayam is the cosmic world. Pranayam is the cosmic world. gentle pranayama, become a pervading pranayama. You won't have to fear anything anymore. You won't have to fear anything anymore. You won't have to fear anything anymore. Won't have to fear anything anymore. Night and day in thy joy, oh my Lord. Night and day in thy joy, oh my Lord. Pranayama is the wishing dream. Pranayama is the wishing dream. You won't have to fear anything anymore. You won't have to fear anything anymore. Night and day in thy joy, oh my Lord. Night and day in thy joy, oh my Lord. Night and day in thy joy, oh my Lord. Night and day in thy joy, oh my Lord. Night and day in thy joy, oh my Lord. Night and day in thy joy, oh my Lord. Let's meditate now. We'll meditate for about 25 minutes. Feel the presence of our great masters. They are all together as one, from Babaji to Lahiri Mahasaya, Sri Yukteswarji, Paramhansa Yogananda. Let's feel their grace, their power in our hearts, filling every moment of this meditation.
Again, welcome everyone online and here at a dark and stormy night on Mud Island. A lot of rain coming and wind. This evening is about, obviously, Lahiri Mahasaya, and it says Mahasamadhi. And Swami Kriyananda, when you talked about Lahiri Mahasaya, because sometimes people see him as the ideal role model of the householder yogi, and Swamiji didn't have any of that stuff, because he said that, one, he said Lahiri Mahasaya was as much of a householder yogi as he was a yogi in the Himalayas who would not see anybody for a year. He was that detached and removed from this world because he was so completely within himself. And he's not a great example for householders in another way, which is that, for example, his sort of his model and example of how to solve marital disputes was to dematerialize and reappear up at the top of the ceiling. And imagine, I think a lot of husbands and wives would really like to know that trick, and say, "See, I told you." And no, he's not a real example of a householder yogi either. He is showing how, in this day and age, we are supposed to live in this world and just be removed from it, but be engaged in it, and be engaged with people, and be giving to people, be connecting with people, serving them, raising a family, but at end of day to take a step back and to have that detachment. And so I'll talk a little bit more about that later. But first I want to talk about two sort of themes or stories or examples of his life that I think are really similar to our lives, more than you might think. And one is how when he met Babaji, I'm going to turn my chair a little bit this way. I'm still facing the camera and I'm facing everybody else more. He didn't meet Babaji. Yeah, that probably would be good. Let's see, I'm back. He didn't meet Babaji until he was, I think, 33 years old or something. And you wonder why. I mean, Babaji kept his understanding and awareness from finding him, but he had to go through a whole, period of life. And during that time, when he met Babaji, Babaji told him, "I was watching over you when you were meditating in the sands at the beach, and I was watching over you here and there." And he was watching over him the whole time. And I think many of us think, well, I wish I could have met my guru a lot earlier than I did, because then here I am, I'm already married, I have a career, and why did they have to wait so long? Or maybe I wasn't worthy enough. But I think Lahiri Mahasaya was showing that example for us. But the other example of just how much protection we've had in our entire life with our masters watching over us. I think everyone here, like myself, I'll tell a few stories, miracles, I think, in my own life, because to be serious on this path, you had to have been a disciple in past lifetimes. And they didn't just start protecting us when we finally took the discipleship vow and signed on the dotted line and said, "I'm with you." And they said, "Okay, now I'll protect you and watch over you." And I'm just going to share 3 stories, and there are many more that I probably am not aware of their protection of me when I was growing up, long before I became a disciple, and long before I even started living a godly life in many ways. One was, I think I was protected and saved, my life saved. I was in a tornado in the United States, and I was staying overnight in a really funky, rickety old farmhouse that was probably 150 years old, and this tornado literally went right near the house. I could hear like a freight train going by, which later that's what everyone describes them like. And there was huge trees that were just totally uprooted right in the neighborhood. And that was one example. another one was when I was not being very good, and I believe they were watching over, and it was a good example of how they protect us, because we think they watch over us and protect us when we're being good little boys and girls, and when we're worthy. But this is a story it took me many decades to look back and realize that they saved me from great physical harm and from being arrested one time because I was a teenager and just getting in a lot of the troubles that teenagers get into. I think I was about 16 years old. And I found myself late at night, in a very dark night, in a neighborhood that I was not at all familiar with. And I was being chased by two policemen. And they had flashlights, so they had a big advantage over me. And it was pitch black. I just couldn't see where I was going. I didn't know where I was. And I was running probably surely faster than I've ever run in my life. I think if someone had timed me, it would have set a world record because that's how much fear and adrenaline that I had. And all I could see every time I turned around was these two flashlights bouncing up and down. And these two policemen who had, American policemen had big guns on their side and just are real tough and real big. And I was a scrawny teenager. And as I was running, I ran through this yard, and I ran between two houses as fast as I could. And running at world record speed, I ran right into a fence at full speed. And it was it's called a chain link fence, where there's a metal pipe, and then there's chain links underneath it, and the pipe was like right at waist high. Imagine running into that full speed, basically with your eyes closed, which is what was happening. And I went flying over the fence, way through the air, and I did a complete flip over the fence, a front flip. And I landed in soft grass, sitting there. And I felt around. I realized I didn't have even a bruise, because I was just stunned that I was surviving this. And when I realized that I was okay, I looked around and I saw these two flashlights bouncing up and down again, and I took off running again. And now I look back and I think they've saved us from really our worst mistakes in our lives. And they've been protecting us and watching over us. And then finally another story, right when I came onto this path, where I was just starting to, where I was in the ocean, and again I did something really foolish. I ignored a sign that said, warning, dangerous currents here, don't swim, and I was foolish and I went swimming out in the ocean, and I got caught in a riptide and got pulled out to sea and was floundering out in the ocean. And the full story is told in my book on Kriya Yoga, but it's also told in Nayaswami Asha's book called Loved and Protected, which is a book full of divine protection of people who, like us, who have made mistakes sometimes, and sometimes they've protected us when we were being good, but not always in that way. And so they saved me in that case, just in a miraculous way, where I gave up my life because I just couldn't swim anymore, and I turned belly up, as the expression goes, and just gave up and offered myself back to God. And all of a sudden I found myself in calm water, just miraculously, almost instantaneously. And so don't ever doubt their protection and their watching over us. They've been doing it for lifetimes. And you might think, well, gosh, how do they watch over so many people? I'm just one measly little person, and I'm not the greatest disciple, and there's other greater disciples. They're probably paying more attention to them. And I think they pay more attention to those who need it, actually, and that's what I've seen in my own life. So I've learned really to trust that they are watching and protecting us, and that idea of trust just is really an important one for a disciple and someone who's trying to find God. And in recent years too, as I've gone through different challenges and with my body and just different tests, and I've learned finally just to trust that they know what they're doing. I don't know what I'm doing, but they know what they're doing, and they are, even through my tests, I found that they're guiding me. And that's kind of what this story of Lahiri Mahasaya, of Babaji watching him all those years. The other thing is that Lahiri Mahasaya didn't come to Babaji until he already was married and had a family. And again, this is like all of us, most people here, I think a lot of people wonder, well, why did I read Autobiography of a Yogi so late in my life? Some younger, but some later in life. And, just trust again that they opened that door when you were ready and when it was the exact right time. and when you were exactly in place where you were supposed to be when you came onto this path. And just don't think that, oh God, I regret not coming sooner, this and that, or I regret, having a family and a career. I could have been a monk if I had done it sooner. And some people have that karma, some people don't. But just trust that, just like Babaji with Lahiri Mahasaya, he waited until the exact right moment when it was time, and when Lahiri Mahasaya was in exactly the right place where he was supposed to be. But it's okay to think, gosh, if I could only be free of all these responsibilities. What did Lahiri Mahasaya do when he met Babaji? Does anyone remember? What did he say to him right away? I don't want to go back. I'm with you. I'm in your band now. I'm home. I'm all set. And Babaji said, no, sorry, Bhaya. You have to go back to your family, because that was the whole idea. This is the whole setup. And so he had to go back to his family and learn to be in the world and to have that sense of freedom and detachment. And that's really the challenge that we're given, because this world today, it's a crazy world. It gets crazier and crazier. And just you see the events in the world and you don't know where it's going to go. But there's also an energy in the world, this intensity of Dwapara Yuga, of a heightened energy, where there is more energy. And all the light and the dark, the good and the bad, are all being energized and brought up and given more power. And those forces are fighting each other. But it's also within each of us, because there's an energy going around the planet that's more and more intense. And I think people find that our jobs can get more intense, our relationships, people, and how do we deal with that? And this is where Babaji said he understood the complexities of this modern times and this modern civilization, and that's why he brought Kriya Yoga for us right here, right now. And yeah, we could all go to the Himalayas, but what would happen? Well, Mumbai would be transported to the mountains, and there'd be 20 million people there. And just this is where we are right now, and that's why I think we all incarnated now to be here and now in Mumbai and wherever we are in this world, and to learn how to be yogis in the world. And it's the same for our monks. We have a monastery in the north, and we have 9 of us who are monks, and it's the same. We live in the world. We deal with things. We deal with keeping the accounts and the books, and a construction project as we build a monastery, and planting gardens and such. And it's very real mundane stuff that many people have to deal with, and there's no getting around it. As Sri Yukteswar said, those who are too good for this world are adorning some other. And if you were too good for where you are exactly right now, you would be adorning some other place. And so how do we learn to apply these things where we are right now? And in a way, the life of a Kriya Yogi is meditating morning and evening, but then going out during the day and facing the challenges of life. And in a way, it's kind of the reality check. Sister Gyanamata, Yogananda's disciple, called it the hard, cold light of day. And it's where we learn our lessons. Because, it's easy to live, you think it might be easy to live a life of meditation, and you'll find that it becomes sort of a lower energy life, of just more spacing out than meditating dynamically all the time. Master himself said that when he fled Sri Yukteswar's ashram to go to the Himalayas, why did he flee? He was being given responsibilities, and he didn't want to face those responsibilities. And so he went to the Himalayas, and he told people later that all he found was the yogis fighting over blankets and food up there. They were not really exalted, deep, meditating yogis. And in this day and age, people sometimes ask me this question. I've been asked this: where are the saints this day? Oh, there used to be so many saints, Nanda Mohima and all our line of gurus, and all these great saints, and Trailanga Swami, all the ones you read about in Autobiography of a Yogi. And it's not like the saints have fled this planet for good because there's no hope for us. They're here amongst us. They're they're not Himalayan yogi saints as much anymore. They're in this world. And in order to see a saint and to recognize a saint, we have to develop, one, the magnetism and the intuition and the understanding. But we also just have to understand that they are around, and we just have to start looking and seeing that there are saintly souls. I think if we look around, I realized even growing up that there were some really saintly souls in my life early on. I think it was my second grade school teacher I think she was a saint. I had what I think were terrible school teachers, unfortunately, but that one, I still remember her, just the patience and the kindness and the unconditional love that was there. So they are around, but they're proving it just as we have to earn it and prove it and live it in the light of day. And the way we do that is taking that model of Lahiri Mahasaya, and I'll read a couple of things that Swami Kriyananda said about him. And he just, again, repeating what I had said, and feel free to have questions online. You can put questions in the chat, I think. Is that how you do it? And we'll have time for questions here. But somebody said about Lahiri Mahasaya, this was a satsang he gave on his birthday, Lahiri Mahasaya's birthday. So when you read the life of Lahiri Mahasaya, don't be satisfied with the fact that he was a householder. He was about as much a householder as a yogi in the Himalayas who never sees anybody year to year. Yes, he had a family, he had children. He did his householderly duty, no question. But in his heart, he was absolutely free. And that's the kind of householder you should all be too. That's the kind of person we should be. We should have this freedom in our heart to feel that at a moment's notice, if God calls us, we can leave for the Himalayas and leave everything behind. And then Swamiji gives this way of developing that freedom. He said every night to think all of our desires, all our attachments, all our involvements, responsibilities, build a bonfire and mentally cast them into that fire, recognizing that you could die this very night. And you want to die free, don't you? Everything. Just give it back to God. It doesn't belong to you. The more you live that way, the more you will find this freedom coming. And so that freedom comes from having that as a regular practice. Every meditation, when we really practice pure devotional offering of ourself in Kriya, in devotional giving, the little self starts to become dissolved. And in that giving, especially with Kriya, when Swamiji said that every Kriya should be an act of devotional self-offering, that means giving our entire being up the spine with the Kriya inhalation and offering it to God. And when we practice that, like many, many times a day, if we do 108 Kriyas, we're practicing it 108 times of giving ourselves completely to God. When we do that day in, day out, over and over again, we start to lose and become free of those things because we're giving them away. Now, yeah, we come back from meditation and a lot of those things are still there, but that practice as a daily practice of giving everything to God is extraordinarily powerful over time. It doesn't happen instantly, but over time when we practice that, it becomes easier and easier to completely give. I share this, one of my favorite cartoons. It's of Garfield the cat, he's behind a couch that's shredded by his claws, and he says, everything I let go of has claw marks on it. And at the end of our life, we don't want to be leaving claw marks in everything that God takes from us, because God is going to take everything from us. God's going to take our body, our family, our friends, everything that's close to us. And we do have to live a life where we have a duty to serve and to give, and with our family, for example. But if in meditation, and if every night we can do that practice, you will find that you start to become freer and freer inside. And yeah, we still have the duty to serve a family or a job, but it's not no longer our job, and it's something that we're not holding on to. And you'll find that when you can act in that way, with family, with career, with whatever we're doing, you can actually do it more effectively, because you don't become passive about it, you don't become indifferent to it, you become free to act in a way that has a lot of freedom and creativity, and not holding anything back and not being afraid of losing it. I think so many great, business ideas or careers have been held down because people were afraid of failing and afraid of just trying too much and trying to achieve. And just when you have that inner freedom, you can more easily do great things rather than just becoming indifferent about everything. This practice of doing what Swamiji said every night, I think is one of the greatest practices that I have found. And experiment with this week, the next month. Try to do this every night when you go to sleep, whether you offer everything into a bonfire, whether you offer yourself to Divine Mother, to the Guru, and say, I'm yours, and I may not wake up tomorrow, and if I don't, I'm completely yours. My life, I've done my best. I give you my failures. I give you the good things I've done, my successes. I've tried. I'm a human being. I have been thrown into this Maya and delusion, and haven't been very well trained by you for it. And I haven't done everything the best, but I've given it my best, and I love you. And give everything to God every night when going to sleep, with this thought that I'm not going to wake up in the morning. And you'll find that it really is extraordinarily liberating and freeing. I was sharing with Vasudeva, I think on the plane over here, on the flight. I was on a flight one time to Argentina, and it was an all-night flight. And so I was sort of sleeping, but I thought I was awake somewhat. And so I was hearing the engines of the plane, and that's why I was partly awake. I was hearing the engines, and the engines of the plane were starting to make some funny noises, and sometimes they do that when you're flying. But then they started making really weird noises. And then I could hear all the grinding of gears and just really terrible, terrifying noises. And again, I thought I was awake because I sort of went into it in a smooth kind of a way. And I was actually asleep, and I was actually dreaming. But in my dream, the noises started getting worse and worse. The turbulence started getting worse and worse. And then I heard somebody shouting. I was so sure I was awake because I was in that plane and I was hearing stuff. I heard someone shouting, "We're going down, we're going down." And in my dream, this thought just kept going through my mind. I get to go home, I get to go home. And I was just so happy that we were going down. And I don't think that I would have had that attitude of freedom if I hadn't made this a regular practice in my life, even at that point, which was about maybe 15 years ago. As it turned out, we weren't going down. I woke up and I was like, oh, I'm not going home. I'm still on this plane, and I got a long 12 hours to go, and it's a long flight. But this way of freedom is something that we have to practice. It's not like, when we're ready, God's going to just all at once give us our freedom, because God's not going to take those things from us. God's not going to take our ego. God's not going to destroy our ego. We have to give our ego, and we have to give ourselves completely to God. And if that becomes a regular practice in our lives, at night when we're going to sleep, every time we do Kriya, every time we meditate, but even every time we serve others, what happens when we're serving others? We're giving of ourselves. In a way, we're losing some of our little self by serving others, by giving something that is precious to us, and giving a gift away to others. There was a study that was done. I was just reading it, I think even at the airport for some reason, in Chandigarh before we left, that they found that people, when they spend money on others rather than on themselves, their happiness level goes up way higher than when they spend money just on themselves. And why? Because it's not about the money. It's not about anything but the giving away of something of our own. Jyotishji and Deviji, they gave a talk in Gurgaon this last weekend, and maybe some of you watched it online. But there's a saying in the U.S. by people who are always seeking to achieve more and more wealth and more things. And I think even Jochis said it was a bumper sticker he saw in a car. It said, "He who dies with the most toys wins." And it's just, the person who gets the biggest house and the biggest car and has the most money, they win. And they're actually the ones who lose because the happiness is not there. And Swamiji often tells the story of that billionaire in the U.S., Howard Hughes, who was the wealthiest person in the world at that time. And near the end of his life, he still had all that wealth. And someone asked him if he was happy, and he sort of grumbled and said, "No, I can't say I'm happy." And just the tone of his voice even conveyed a real sadness and a real weariness of the world. And the way we do that is by Lahiri Mahasaya, his example of living in this world, being engaged in it, being active in it, doing the best that we can, and giving the results to God. And at the end of every day, giving it all back to God and saying, "Okay, it's all yours, and I may die tonight." And you'll find that, you probably will wake up the next morning, but I guarantee that if you do wake up the next morning, which is pretty likely, you'll feel freer inside, and you'll be ready to greet the day and be ready to start the day. The last few mornings, for some reason, I've experimented over the years with different sort of fun games when I wake up to try to get the energy going, because it's hard sometimes, let's face it. Your health is it's not always great, you didn't sleep good, the alarm clock goes off, I'm just not ready to face what I have to deal with. And I was going through that for a period of just health challenges and a lot of responsibilities, and I realized it was a really bad way to start every day with that attitude. And I really decided I have to consciously and dynamically and proactively change that. And so the way I did it was, when the alarm clock went off, I developed the habit of saying out loud, really loudly, "Thank you" to God. Just thank you for this day and for what I'm being given to do. And I would jump out of bed. And it really changed the energy in a very positive way. In the last few mornings, for some reason, one morning I woke up a few mornings ago, and just the first word out of my mouth, it was moksha. And it was just, it wasn't something I was thinking of, it just spontaneously came out. And I realized it was an affirmation of why we are here. It was, I think, the night before, maybe I had given everything into the bonfire, and I woke up and that memory was still there. Yes, it's about freedom. And so somehow find a way to keep that as our calling card and almost as a mantra, that's what we're trying to achieve. And when we meditate and we pray, the way to achieve that is, again, by giving ourselves completely, giving it all back to God, and living in this world even with that freedom. So are there any questions here, or something you would like me to share more about, or online that people might have questions? We don't have that much time for a few questions, but I'll read something that Lahiri Mahasaya said. It says Autobiography of a Yogi, and this touches on what I was just saying. Lahiri Mahasaya says, "Always remember that you belong to no one, and no one belongs to you. Reflect that someday you will suddenly have to leave everything in this world, so make the acquaintanceship of God now. Prepare yourself for the coming astral journey of death by daily riding in the balloon of God perception. Through delusion, you are perceiving yourself as a bundle of flesh and bones, which at best is a nest of troubles. Meditate unceasingly, that you may quickly behold yourself as the infinite essence, free from every form of misery. Cease being a prisoner of the body. Using the secret key of Kriya, learn to escape into spirit." And this is what our lives, the practice of meditation is, practicing at learning to escape into the freedom of spirit every day. And anything you apply yourself, I think you see this with Mumbai cars, people have energy and creativity, and they apply themselves. Anything you seriously apply yourself to, you can achieve, just like everyone has, but especially with the spiritual path. Swamiji once said that not everybody has the good karma to become like a multi-millionaire, but everyone has the karma to become liberated. And everyone can. Not everyone in the world could become a millionaire, because then obviously $1 million would be worth nothing. But everyone can become liberated. It's our destiny, and we have the tools and the practices to show us how to do it. So have that thought. That's why we're here, and try to live with that freedom. So any questions here? And okay. I would say be really conscious of how you fall asleep. Make it one of the most conscious things you can do, because it's almost like a golden opportunity. When you're driving the car, you can't control all of your thoughts, because you have to be watching and reacting. And when we're with people, you're expressing and tuning into others. But when you're lying down, going to sleep, you can choose to worry about all the stuff that you have to worry about, or you can really consciously do this practice that Swamiji gave. And it's the same with waking up. It's another moment. It's like a transition moment that you can start to gain control over, of where your consciousness will be when you come out of subconsciousness and come into the waking state, and get up on the right side of bed or the wrong side of bed. And that's the choice we have. But if we practice that regularly, we start to have more control over it. Just like anything, if we practice it, we start to have control, whether it's learning a musical instrument, or exercise, or running, or singing, or writing, or anything. It's practice, and that's what freedom. It's a practice, and if we practice it, as I've seen, you gain that freedom more and more over time. Yeah, so those online, you may not hear the question, but Metta was asking to share about my wife, Maria, when she left the body, and the freedom that she expressed. And it's a good example, because she was someone who, up to that time, to the last year of her life, was not free. She had, stuff she was working on, including a real fear of dying, and a fear of dying of cancer, which she had been, fighting for about 10 years, and it finally came back. And she even wrote Swami Kriyananda one time. She said, I know I must sound dumb, because I've been studying these teachings for 40 years, and I've been practicing them. I meditate every day. I do Kriya Yoga. I know I'm not supposed to have this fear, but I'm still afraid of leaving the body and dealing with this. And she was very open about these things with Swamiji. And he wrote back, and it was partly what he said, but I think it was more. I think by offering that fear to the light, divine grace came to her. And what Swamiji wrote, he said, you've died millions of times. You've had millions of incarnations. You've done this a lot. And when it happens, it's really normal what happens. And you just be relaxed and aware that, when it happens, it's okay. But he said, it's like only going into the next room. That's how big of a shift it is. It's just like going into the next room. It's not that big of a change that you go through. And not long after that, she lost that fear. But I think it was more just offering oneself into the grace and into the light, which we all do every day with Kriya Yoga and with our practices. And by doing that, the grace of God enters and starts to free us from even our very worst fears and intense karmas and desires and attachments. They do that through their grace. Our part is just to do our best and cooperate with it. And finally, at the end of life, she went through a little, it was very quick. She was having symptoms in the brain. She knew that she had a brain tumor. We had to get an MRI so the doctors could say, confirm it. I made the appointment for the MRI, and she was joking about it. She said, if I don't have tumors in my brain, I'll eat my socks, is what she said. just so sure of it. And I think her intuition was telling her that her time was really close, actually. And the MRI showed tumors throughout her brain. It was just all over the place. And the doctor said she only had a few weeks to live, which turned out to be true. But when I told her what the doctor said, and she was almost omniscient at the end, because the results were delayed. I've never shared this part of this story. The results were delayed, and we just weren't hearing from the doctor. And finally, the doctor called me, and I was in the other side of the house. She was anywhere she could hear me. And the doctor told me the results, and I just happened to walk into the room where she was resting, and she said, "So what is the doctor saying?" And it was like she knew that we had gotten the word. And I said, he said, "You have tumors all throughout your brain, and you just have 3 weeks to live." And I was like, oh my God, it was intense for me. She just with so much joy, she said, 3 weeks, that long? And it wasn't that she was trying to leave this world. She was already free and going forward to the next one. It's like, really, 3 weeks I have to be in this junky place, this world? Because she was feeling the freedom of the hills, as an expression in America. But also and she was free of pain even at the end. There was grace. There was no pain in her head or anything. But about maybe 3 or 4 days before she left the body, there was some upset in her body, and I expressed some concern, and she just looked at me just very sweetly, and she said, "Don't worry, I'm free." And she said it so, and for her, she was raised in the Soviet Union, where they don't exaggerate things, and they tend to keep their mouth shut and not speak too openly. And for her to say that, it meant a really high degree of freedom that she was feeling. And so, in her very last words that she spoke was Om Guru, Om Guru. And this is what I've seen time and again with people who live the life of Kriya Yoga. So don't think that, oh gosh, these people are more advanced than me, or I'm not there, I have too far to go, and I'm just not going to make it. And no, these people are like these people here. They're people who have had challenges and karmas and fears, but who sincerely worked at it, persevered, and stayed with the Guru. And even her fears were not taken till the very end. And I've seen this without exception with Ananda people who have left the body. It's just, her story is the same. I've seen repeated over and over again. Her sister also, they had a genetic predisposition to cancer, and her sister left the body, and her last word to her husband was celebrate. There was just so much joy. And even she was in a lot of pain and struggle, and I was helping her one time. She was crawling. She couldn't even stand. She was crawling to get sick in the bathroom, and I was kind of helping her, and she was singing as she was crawling. She was in all this pain. She was getting sick, and she was just singing one of Swami Kriyananda's songs with so much joy and freedom. And so, the body was there, this world was there, but the freedom within was there, and that's possible. It really is, for all of us. And these are just people like each and every one of us. These were not people who came as great saints. These were people who had stuff to work on. And just like all of us have stuff to work on, that freedom can be had. It's possible. Okay. It's been Korea 47 years. 47 years this month, even, I think, yeah. But, it's not about years. It's just about intensity and perseverance and patience. And I think, many people here in this room have 47 years still ahead of them, and if not, a couple of decades. And, Are we running out of time here? Or? More questions? Okay. So I think we will have a flower ceremony, and just to offer, I find sometimes with these ceremonies, one of our brother monks, he has this attitude of extreme gratitude at times, and it's just very inspiring for me to see. He'll end a prayer when we start have a meditation sometimes, rather than saying formally, Om Shanti Shanti, he'll just say, thank you. and he'll say the whole prayer, and he'll end by saying thank you, or thank you for this opportunity. And just so let's offer our gratitude and thanks and appreciation to Lahiri Mahasaya as we bring rose petals. I think is that. So how will we do this? Okay. Is someone going to do a chant, or am I going to do a chant? Someone? Okay. And let's just listen to the chant for a few minutes. And then we'll listen to the chant for a couple minutes just to get centered and tune into Lahiri, and then offer rose petals each one at the altar to Lahiri Mahasaya.